If you are looking for the steps, instructions, and strategies that will lead you to land your flight attendant dream job in 2024, you are in the right place. This video is a class. It's not a vlog. It's not an opinion piece. It is designed to give you the information and to outline exactly what steps you need to take to become a flight attendant in 2024. So this is, though, a high-level look. So I'm going to give you the steps, but this is kind of a high-level look of all the things that you need to know, your steps, the qualifications, current of trends that we're seeing in the flight attendant industry. But I also have a masterclass that is a deep dive into more of the information that you need to know, longer than we can do in a YouTube video. And so down below in the description is a link. If you would like to get that masterclass, I will send it to you. There's a link down below. But let's dive into what we're going to talk about today, which is a class, a formula, a step-by-step guide as to what you need to know and what you need to do to become a flight attendant in 2024 in the United States with no experience. So first, before I tell you the steps, let me tell you how I know the steps. I'm Abby Unger. I'm the owner and founder of Flight Attendant Career Connection, a company that has been helping aspiring flight attendants land their dream job, as well as transition into the flight attendant lifestyle with joy and ease and encouragement for over 10 years now. I joined aviation in 2006 as a flight attendant. I had the opportunity to work as a flight attendant for United, as well as Continental Airlines. And then I worked for PSA Airlines, a regional, and I was a flight attendant and an in-flight instructor for them. A few years after becoming a flight attendant and joining aviation, I did hang up my wings temporarily to raise my family, to start a family, raise my family. And I also started Flight Attendant Career Connection in 2013. So I have been still plugged in, passionate, and very studious about the flight attendant hiring trends, career information, things that you need to know. And so that's a little bit about who I am. I'd love to connect with you on Facebook or here on YouTube. All right, so let's dive in. That's about me. First of all, step one, here we go. Step one, we're just a few minutes in, less than 3 minutes in, and we got step one. Step one, you need to know who's hiring. Okay, so you need to know who's hiring. I have a resource for you to make this easy. On my website, you can visit, I'll put the link below. I have a list on who's accepting applications, who's hiring page on my website, and we update it. Most days it's updated. We try to update it every day. It doesn't change every day, but we try to take a look at it and update it every day. And this is a resource for you to know who is accepting applications. So it looks like this. This is a little bit about what it looks like when you visit it. Again, link below. You can just click the link, bookmark it, visit it. Who's accepting applications? The airlines. How to use this page. Airlines that are accepting applications will have the words accepting applications written next to them. So this is a little bit how it works. It looks. So we can see here that Denver Air Connection and Endeavor Air are accepting applications. That is a really, really important. It's a very important resource for you because it does two things. One, it lets you know who's accepting applications, but also I bet even just in that one little screenshot, which that's only about a third of the page, there's a lot more airlines down below. I bet you already saw an airline that you've never heard of already. So this resource, the reason that I leave all the names up instead of just only having the names of those accepting applications is so that you can see an airline that maybe you haven't heard of or you haven't considered it, and it allows you to start researching whether they're accepting applications or not. You can start to look into these other airlines that maybe look interesting to you so that you can be ready when they start accepting applications. Let me give you a quick update on Delta, United, American, and Southwest. So these are the four, kind of the top four as far as most coveted, most popular flight attendant jobs. Partly because they're also the most common. These are the ones we've heard of. So they kind of float to the top of most people's lists. So I want to give you a quick update as to what the hiring trends are that we're seeing so far. First of all, Delta. Delta started, they did accept applications already this year in January for just a few days. And they then reached their limit of applications that they needed to accept for the 2024 hiring year. They have announced and they have made it clear that they are planning to accept applications again in the fall. So we don't have to wait to 2025 to apply, but we do have a few more months until fall. So fall of 2024 is when you'll be able to apply with Delta. That's what we're expecting at this point. United also accepted applications at the very beginning of January, and their application was only open for about 24 hours, a day or two, and then they closed down. I have a feeling that they're in the same boat as Delta. They haven't been as explanatory as Delta has been as to what their plans are, but I'm thinking that it's going to be similar. Both of these airlines, Delta and United, are accepting applications from flight attendants who are bilingual, that speak a second language. That is a language that they need. So if you do speak a second language, English and another language, go and visit their websites, sign up for their job alerts, because there will be opportunity, hopefully for you, depending on the language that you speak, throughout the year, and you may not have to wait until the fall. American has not yet accepted applications in 2024, but last year they said that they were planning to hire close to 2,000 flight attendants this year based on need. That could change, could not change, but we haven't seen them open up yet in 2024. And I expect that we will at some point. So that's good news. And then finally, Southwest, the update on Southwest. Last week, they sent out an email to their employees with a bit of a flight attendant hiring update. Their goal is to hire, to train and graduate 940 flight attendants this year, which is significantly less than we've seen in the last couple years. But that's okay. Southwest is waiting on airplanes. Most of these airlines are waiting on airplanes from Boeing. There's been a bit of a delay. And so some of their forecasting flight attendants that they need, they may not need as many, because they may not get as many new planes as they had originally thought that they would get this year. So Southwest has not accepted applications this year yet. They did accept applications the last time in September of 2023. I'm not sure if we will see them accept applications again this year. If we do, it probably will be more like the Delta into the fall, as they start to as they see what their numbers were for flight attendants who graduated this year and how close they were to 940, and then what their need is for next year. So we'll keep our eyes open for that one too. Southwest traditionally doesn't open applications very often. They are the ones that open probably the least frequent. Their frequency is pretty low. So we'll see how it goes. But like I said, check out the list. There's currently over a dozen airlines that are accepting flight attendant applications today, even though those 4 are not. Okay, so check out the link in the description below, bookmark it so that you can stay on top of who is hiring. So that was step 1, find out who's hiring so you know where to apply. Step 2 is get your resume airline ready. I do have some videos on this, but basically what you want to do is you want to create a new resume for the flight attendant position. Okay, so it's going to have the same information that your resume has on it, but we want to use a very simple document, no pictures, no graphics, no colors. If you want colors and headings and a little flair and a little zhuzh on there, you can create a second resume with the same information as your primary flight attendant resume that has some of those colors and things on it, but use that for face-to-face interview or face-to-face opportunity, so that when you're printing it out and you're handing it to someone, and it looks pretty and it's got a heading and a border and a little bit of woo on it, no photos. no matter what, no photos, no photos, no pictures of yourself. But you also want kind of you want a primary resume for your flight attendant applications that is a very plain document without a lot of formatting. One column, not two columns, not a lot of graphics in front of your phone number, no little clip art of the phone. Very, very, very basic, because you're going to apply through a computer. The computer is going to scan through it, looking for keywords, looking for certain things, so that the computer knows that you're qualified. And then it will trigger your invitation to an interview. So we don't want a lot of different colors or white text on dark backgrounds or anything that could get scrambled or be difficult for the computer to translate into computer speak. Okay, so keep it simple. But for every single job that you have, once you start working on your resume and you've got your format down, when you start doing your job descriptions, your bullet points under every single job, make sure each job includes a bullet point that is customer service focused, one that is teamwork focused, and one that is safety focused. At least that, because those are the three main pillars of the flight attendant career, and those are going to help you cover all the keywords that you need in your resume. For some jobs, this is easier than others. So for example, if you have a job that is very customer service focused, like maybe you're a server, then customer service is your jam. So that's easy, but don't forget to add in there your safety bullet point. Maybe you are a police officer, and so safety is your jam. Don't forget to add in there your customer service bullet point as well. Okay, so that was step 2, is get your resume airline ready. Again, I do have some videos. I'll link them below for you. Step 3, it's time to apply. Step 3, let's fill out our applications. So we know how to find out who's accepting applications, and now we have our resume airline ready. So now it's time to start applying. You will apply through the airline's website only. My list on my website is a list. It's a reference list. You don't apply through me. When you click on the name of the airline, it will take you to the airline's website. Do not apply through Facebook. Do not apply through Indeed. Do not apply through Glassdoor. Do not apply through weird ads that you find on the internet when you're Googling up flight attendant jobs. You apply through the airline's website, each individual airline's website. The reason I am really, really, really being very, very, very specific about this is because the number of scams out there to steal your identity for the flight attendant career is amazing. It's amazing how many there are. I get job posts that come to my email because I'm signed up for all sorts of alerts on LinkedIn and stuff. And I get things and I'm like, there's no crew base in this city that they're saying. This is not what this is. And I do report them to LinkedIn or Indeed, but there are so many. I have talked with so many people who have filled out applications or had someone on Facebook say, I'm a recruiter for this airline. Send me your resume, send me a photo of your passport. And it has ended in having their identity stolen. Okay, so please, please, please only apply through the airline's websites. Okay, that's really, really important. Now, this is my advice for you. The other one was a rule. We only apply through the airline's websites. But here's a little advice. I encourage you to apply to every airline that is accepting applications that you are qualified to apply with. So I do not recommend that you apply for one and go through the process and then apply for another one and then go through the process. And this is for a couple reasons. One, airlines hire, they open and they close and they open and they close. And I don't want you waiting. I don't want you, if 2 airlines are open today and you want to apply to both of them, I want you to apply to both of them. So, and then you can learn about the process. Then you can learn which one you like better or however it works out for you. But I don't want you waiting and picking one and then going through the process. And then if you're not successful, then you look again and you start over. I want you to put a lot of hooks in the water so that you can catch a lot of fish. Okay. And so that you can learn to be a better fisher person, Fisher lady, as you go through the process. Now, I do have like some exceptions for you though. So I used to say, and if you've been around for a while, you've heard me say, apply everywhere, apply everywhere. And it was a very blanket statement, but I have some exceptions. This apply everywhere is it's not as blanket as it has been in the past. And here's why. One is I need to add everywhere that you are qualified to work for. So for example, if you are 6'5" and there's a regional airline hiring that you have to be under 6 feet, you are not qualified to work for them. Do not apply with them. You're not qualified. If an airline says that you must have a passport current in your possession with at least 36 months left on it and you don't have a passport, you're not qualified. Please don't apply. Get your passport and then apply, but you're not qualified, so please don't apply. If an airline says you must live in your base because we come home every night and we don't let you commute and you must live in your base and you don't live in their base, don't apply. Unless you're going to move, unless you're 100% going to move to Boise, Idaho, or somewhere else. I'm trying to think of one of the other places like that. Don't apply because you're not meeting the qualification. Okay. So there's a couple other things that can disqualify you. So let's start at the beginning. Let's start with height. There's not really any, the height requirements. There are height requirements to be a flight attendant, but they vary between airline because they vary between type of aircraft. Some airlines have a minimum height where you have to be a certain height, a certain amount tall, certain height, or you have to be able to reach to a certain height, and that's to be able to access the emergency equipment. Now, on the flip side, some airlines have a maximum height, so you can only be this tall. So that's always in the job description. So when you go to the airline's website and you read the job description, make sure that you fit that criteria. Okay, which height always leads us to weight. Okay, are there weight restrictions to be a flight attendant in 2024? Hallelujah, praise the Lord. There is no weight requirements or restrictions on being a flight attendant. The last flight attendant was weighed in 1998, which really wasn't that long ago, but it was a while back. Now, there are, again, for safety reasons, you do have to have a body shape. Your body has to be of a size that you can fit down the aisle, that you can fit in your seatbelt on your jump seat. You can get into your jump seat and buckle it in, and that you can fit out the overwing exit. These are for safety reasons. I think we can kind of figure out why, right? So you have to be able to buckle up. You have to be able to get out the exits. You have to be able to get down the aisle easily. So even though they're not weighing you, there are some size restrictions. If you are about a size 18 to 20 women's, that should be good. Okay, that should be good. Size 18, yes. Size 20, probably, depending on how you carry your weight. Now, of course, everyone carries their weight differently. So I do my best to try to give you sizes, because I don't think it's fair to just say, oh, there's no weight restrictions, whatever, because there is a little bit of a size restriction. And I don't want you guessing. I don't want you to have to guess. Now, let's talk about whether or not there's a stigma around the weight. There's not, that I have found from personal experience, also for the last 10 years working. Thankfully, we do not see that stigma about having to have like a perfect body or an ideal look or like a stewardess look. We don't see that anymore. There is room for everybody. There is a place for everyone. Everyone can be valued as a flight attendant, which is amazing. And again, to give you some data, so the first time I was hired as a flight attendant, I was wearing a size 12 suit. And then the last time I was hired as a flight attendant, I was wearing a size 14 suit. So I was never, traditionally thin or whatever. So I just like to give data that, it's not just lip service that you don't weigh anymore. It's acceptance, which is awesome. So that is height and weight. Let's talk about age next. There are also no longer age requirements to be a flight attendant. No, There's no age maximums. There is an age requirement. So some airlines hire at 18, some hire at 19, some hire at 20, and then all the rest hire at 21. Again, this information is in the job description. If you are over 21, though, you can apply anywhere. You're good to go. And there is no maximum cutoff. You're not forced to retire at a certain time. Also, you cannot be too old that you are not eligible to be hired. All right. Which, again, fantastic news. It wasn't always that way. So I'm really grateful that it's that way now. Let's talk about tattoos. Can you have a tattoo and be a flight attendant? Sure. Can you have a visible tattoo and be a flight attendant? Yes, you can, depending on the airline. So we're seeing a lot of a movement, and this has been so recent, like maybe the last 5 years. We've seen new movements as far as uniform guidelines allowing visible tattoos. So not all airlines allow you to have a visible tattoo. Again, that information is in the job description, but we are seeing a lot of airlines that will allow you to have a visible tattoo, but there are still guidelines around it. Usually it needs to be the size no larger than a credit card, and it needs to be on like your arms or your legs, but it can't be on your face or your hands or your neck. That's in general. So again, if you do have tattoos and you want to apply to an airline that doesn't allow tattoos, you can wear long sleeves, the long sleeve uniform, or you could wear pants to cover up leg tattoos. So there's still options as far as having your tattoos covered with your uniform, but we are seeing some airlines allowing even visible tattoos, which is great news. All right. Next thing we're going to talk about is passport. Do you need a passport to be a flight attendant? You do, but you don't always need a passport to apply to be a flight attendant. Okay, so where are we going to find the information? In the job description. So in the job description, it will say, we have been seeing more and more strict requirements for passports in the job descriptions over the last couple years, as we've seen a slowdown in the ability to get a passport. So it used to be that most of the time you just had to be able to get one, or maybe you had your receipt for ordering one, or you just needed it before training. But as there's been sort of a slowdown in the government's ability to renew or issue new passports, we have seen stricter guidelines in the job description. So for example, some airlines at the time of application require you to have a current passport with 36 months of availability on it. Some require 18 months of availability on it. So, and then some still don't require it at the application stage. So what am I saying to you? If you have a passport that's going to expire in the next couple years, I would suggest you go ahead and start the renewal process so that you're ready to go when it's time to go. If you don't have a passport yet, I suggest that you make that a goal. You don't have to wait to apply to be a flight attendant until you have your passport. In a lot of cases, in some cases you do, but you don't have to just period wait. Like, we cannot apply nowhere. That's not the case. But you will need it before you go to training. So now is the time to start working towards that goal of getting your passport. If your passport is in your maiden name and everything else is in your married name, you need to get it either renewed with your new name, with your new last name, your married last name, or they can amend it. So depending on how much time you have left on that passport, but all those documents need to match. So if your driver's license has a married name, your passport needs to have your married name as well. So that's another thing about passports that if you're in that situation, you want to work towards fixing. Okay. So that's your passports. Now let's talk about marijuana. So because marijuana, because some drugs are legal for recreational use in some states, we've seen a need. I've seen a need over the last couple years to really bring some information and some education as to what kinds of extracurricular activities are allowed for an aspiring flight attendant, or what is smart, because I guess allowed is not the right word, but what is a good strategy. So here's the thing. Aviation is federally mandated. Is overseen by federal departments, the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration. It's a federal thing. Your drug test is a federal drug test. These drugs are not like marijuana is not legal for it on the federal level, right? So some states have different, in fact, every state has like different laws. Some you have to have a prescription. Some recreational use is fine without a prescription. Some is not. So different states have different laws, but the federal guidelines haven't changed. Will they change? Probably. You know, we've seen tattoo things change, like industry has changed. But for right now, when you go to become a flight attendant, you're going to take a federal drug test. And so whether or not you had a prescription for this won't matter. Okay. So basically it's a no-go. If you are on a prescription, obviously talk to your doctor. Talk to your doctor about it. Talk to your doctor. If you needed to sleep, talk to your doctor. But just know it's not the thing. It's not one of the drugs that can be okay with a prescription. It's still not okay as of now. Now that brings me to another question that this is bringing up in some of your minds. What about my stimulants for my ADHD? What about my stimulants? Those are okay with a prescription. So if you are prescribed a medication, a stimulant for your ADHD, will that show up in a drug test? Probably. They will request they'll request the prescription and you'll be fine. Okay, so that's a different thing than the marijuana side of it. All right. Swimming. Do you need to know how to swim to be a flight attendant? No. Alaska does have a bit of a swim test, so you do want to know how to swim with them, but there's not just like a swim test, like we all have to be able to swim to be a flight attendant. Now, for some airlines, you will have a day in training where you do your ditching training, which ditching means land in the water. So so we have to train for that, right? Because we have rafts and all that kind of stuff. Flotation devices. So on ditching day, some airlines will have you jump into the water. So with a life vest. So you'll inflate your life vest and jump into the water and kind of have to like maneuver around. So if you are really uncomfortable in the water, then, or if you can't swim and the thought of getting into water that you can't touch is causing you a bit of anxiety, I recommend that you take a swim class. Take a swim class, and the YMCA, take an adult swim class, get a little bit more comfortable in the water, because no, you don't have to swim, but you do want to feel comfortable jumping into water so that day is not packed full of anxiety for you during training, because training is already packed full of anxiety on its own. All right. So that's another qualification that we get asked about a lot. Now, there's one other type of airline that I want you to be aware of when you're applying everywhere. Some airlines are not, I hear this term like not commuter friendly. What that means is it doesn't mean that the company isn't friends with people who commute. What it means is the way that their schedule is set up makes it impossible to commute. So specifically, this is going to be like Allegiant, and we're seeing Frontier move in that direction, but they haven't gotten there yet. Also, a Velo has this kind of schedule that I'm going to tell you about in a second. And Breeze also has this kind of schedule, although they are kind of growing away from it. All right. So what does it mean if it's an airline that you can't commute because of the schedule? It means that every trip is a one-day trip, which means you leave in the morning and you fly around, and then you come home that night and you sleep in your own bed. And then the next day you wake up and you drive back to the airport and you fly around all day, and then you come back to your home airport and you drive home and you sleep in your own bed. So airlines that have more traditional schedule, you would go on a 4-day trip. So you would drive to the airport and fly around and then spend the night in a hotel in a different city, fly around the next day, spend the night in a hotel in a different city, fly around the next day, spend the night in a hotel in a different city, fly around the next day, and then be back at your base airport. So you have been gone for 3 days. You haven't needed a place to sleep for those 3 days because you've been on a trip and you've been working. These other airlines that I mentioned a few minutes ago, they do 1-day trips. So you have to have a place to sleep in your base city every night for your entire career. So if you live in the city, that's awesome because you have a house there. But you cannot fly in and out every single day if you're a commuter. You can't fly in and work your trips and then fly out. The timing doesn't work like that, okay? So these are airlines that you have to live in base. So if you're not in a place where you can move, or you don't want to move to the places that these airlines are accepting applications for, then you don't need to apply to them either because you're not meeting the qualifications, which is not commuting. All right. So apply everywhere that you are qualified to work for. All right. That was step 3, apply. It's going to go a bit quicker now. Okay. Because we're almost done. We only have 5 total. Really only 4. 5, I don't have a lot to say. Number 4, the process, the interview process. Once you start applying, you will be in the interview process. This interview process, whether you have interviewed for jobs recently or you haven't interviewed for jobs for decades, this process is going to be like nothing you've ever experienced. It is multi-faceted, multi-layered. A lot of times the application will start with an assessment. It's like a personality assessment. I'll link a video for you down below for how to do well on the assessment. But really, you want to be showing up as your best self, feeling good, not hungry, not tired, not feeling lonely, so that you can have your best personality shine during this assessment. Okay. Once the assessment part's over, and not every airline has them, but most of them do, we're going to start the interview process. The interviews can be a mix of, or all of, a combination of phone interview, pre-recorded on-demand video interview, live video interview, group video interview, face-to-face interview, in-person face-to-face interview, in-person group interview, so many different levels. So usually you start with some sort of virtual, either a phone interview, an on-demand video interview, which is when the questions just appear on the screen. There's not another person that you're having a conversation with, and the questions come up on the screen and you record yourself answering them and then send it off to be reviewed. Or a virtual interview, virtual live interview. This could be kind of like a one-on-one with a recruiter, sort of like on Zoom-ish kind of thing, or could be a group interview with 20 different candidates all taking their turn to answer a question virtually on a Zoom kind of thing. They use all different kinds of software, but it's very similar to Zoom. Those are some of the options. And then we also have, after one or maybe 2 of those steps, then most of the time you're going to be invited to a face-to-face, which is like a 4 to 6 hour event, hiring event type thing, where you will have a one-on-one interview with a recruiter, where you will have an opportunity to go to an orientation and learn about an airline, learn more about what they're looking for. And then usually there's some sort of group activity that you get to complete with the other candidates there that day. So there are a lot of different kinds of questions that you'll encounter as you're applying to be a flight attendant and as you're interviewing. Everything from why do you want to work for our company and why you want to be a flight attendant, to those STAR format questions. Tell me about a time you had a disagreement with a coworker. Tell me about a time that you had a upset customer that you turned around. Tell me about a time. Tons of those kinds of questions too. Okay, so practice is really important, because especially these story answers, it's hard to remember what you did last year or what that one employee that you had a disagreement with, like what was the details. So it's important that you're practicing. I have lots of videos on here and some other resources. I'd love for you to even consider joining the hub so that we can do our group practice twice a month together. But it really is important that you are practicing, not memorizing or anything like that, not rehearsing, but practicing answering your interview questions so that you can answer all these different questions that they're going to throw your way once you get into the swing of things. Okay. So that is the process. The process results in a CJO, which stands for contingent job offer. Gosh, contingent job offer. The CJO contingent job offer is contingent on passing the drug test, passing the background check, and passing training. United calls it a CTO, a contingent training offer, but CJO is usually pretty standard. On the other side of that, we get a TBNT, which means thanks but no thanks, or thanks but not this time. But that's the opposite of a CJO. I just want to mention that because you'll probably see that around on the forums and the Facebook groups and things like that. So that's step 4, making it through the interview process and getting your CJO. Next step is training. Once you get your job offer, you'll be invited to training. Training is different for every airline. It can last anywhere from 3 weeks to 6.5 weeks, and they will teach you how to become a flight attendant. You don't need any experience being a flight attendant to be hired as a flight attendant. You just need a passion for customer service, the ability to be dependable and flexible, and you need to make it through all the interviews. Honestly, and then training. And then they will teach you how to be a flight attendant. So again, this was kind of an overview of what you can expect as far as steps, how to become a flight attendant. I would love for you to register for the webinar that does the deep dive. I've got it linked down below. So I said register, but basically you just give me your email and I'll send you the video. It's a master class that I taught that really deep dives into a lot more of the interview part of it, because I know I mentioned some of those different questions and things like that, but this is more of a deep dive into really how to shine, how to stand out, and how to communicate to your recruiter exactly what you want them to know so they can see what a fantastic flight attendant you'll be. So I hope you found this helpful. I believe in you. I'm so excited that 2024 is going to be your year to become a flight attendant. And I hope I get to be a part of your journey. Talk to you later.